get it, then you should have put a ring on it.
The human voice stripped bare.
Hallelujah!
I think there's nothing more beautiful.
Standing in a crowded room and I can't see your face.
With no instruments or backing, this is singing a cappella style.
Put your arms around me, tell me.
Everything is done. The harmonies, the melodies, the bass lines, the drums, everything with the human voice. I find that incredibly exciting.
Up and down the country, ordinary people are making extraordinary music with just their voices. Now, in a brand new contest, I'll be helping the most promising amateur singing groups become Britain's best.
Great!
Hundreds of gifted groups applied from across the UK, each with their own unique sound. And I picked 8.
Yes, yes, yes.
Who I'll push to achieve a cappella excellence.
Just be free! Come on, let's go. I worry that it's not setting the world on fire.
I think you've got your comfort zone. We're well out of it right now.
Each week, these 8 groups will compete to stay in the contest, performing live at top venues across the country. They'll need to sing to impress a specially selected jury of a cappella experts. Their votes decide who stays.
I loved it. Great rhythm, natural, freely produced singing.
Who goes.
I hated this. Absolutely hated it.
And ultimately, who will be crowned my overall winner?
Probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
If we went through, I would be speechless.
That audience have been regally entertained.
You see groups like this excited and ready to go. It makes my blood pump. It's going to be so much fun.
Last week, 4 groups from the south of the UK sang to stay in the contest. But the jury's votes spelt the end of the line for female barbershop act Spinnaker Chorus.
I'm immensely proud of the girls. Oh, I'm going to cry, sorry.
This week, it's a new heat. 4 more groups, this time from the northern half of the UK, are arriving in Liverpool to begin their battle to stay in the contest.
I'm very excited about all the groups. It's a fantastic range of different styles within a cappella.
First in the door, YesterYear, a barbershop act who go way back, with a humour and camaraderie that shines through in their singing.
Whatever the challenge is, we shall meet it and succeed. Won't we, chaps?
At the other end of the spectrum are teenagers, Flight of the Phoenix, who got together just 3 weeks ago and are yet to perform in public.
I think it might be a bit of a challenge. Obviously, they've had more experience than us. Like, they look like they've been together for like 25 years or something. I don't know why. So I feel a bit worried about it, a bit anxious.
From Birmingham, the Sons of Pitches, a pop a cappella act who dream of going pro.
You don't want a cappella to be this niche thing that only people who do a cappella enjoy, but we're trying to make it a bit more mainstream.
We're not looking for world domination.
Yet.
We just want to spread the reputation.
Bringing up the rear and representing the proud tradition of university a cappella are Glasgow students' Choral Stimulation.
Someone once described us as a drinking group with a serious singing problem. As we just got more into it, the music just got better and better and better.
4 groups have arrived today, but at the end of this heat, only 3 will be left standing.
And I think there's a great variety, everything from very traditional barbershop to bang up to the minute, young kids doing modern a cappella. And that's what excites me.
It's time to set them their first challenge.
Showtime. Hello. Very exciting. Right here, right now is where this competition begins. You're going to be going head-to-head with people that you see across from you today.
You're all smiling now. In 3 weeks' time, you are going to be performing on this very stage in front of 300 people. You will each perform one song of my choosing. Would you like to know what you're going to be singing?
Yes.
OK, good. YesterYear. You are more of a traditional barbershop outfit, but with a cheeky rock and roll glint in your eye. So I've got a song for you that I think embodies both spirits. At this stage, I'm choosing songs that play to each group's vocal style. Elvis's Suspicious Minds is a great fit for YesterYear, a group who like to bring a dash of comedy to old-school barbershop.
Hello, Frank. What are you having?
The granddads of my 4 groups from the north hail from the East Midlands and are led by musical director Martin.
We choose folk songs, pop tunes. Take a long ride on my motorbike. We are an entertainment group. That's what we do.
They've spent the last 25 years performing at amateur singing competitions. Their secret weapon is comedy compere Len.
The average age of YesterYear is just over 67 years. It was a little bit more, but Biggest Rob joined, so he brought our average age down, but our average weight went up.
Good song?
Yeah!
Excited?
Yeah!
Confident about arranging?
No!
Not exactly. OK, we'll work on that. It'll be fine. OK, the next group, Choral Stimulation. Interesting name. Would you like to know what your song is?
Yes. Yes, electric shit.
ELO's prog rock epic, Mr. Blue Sky, should play to this group's talent for intricate arrangements. There, good song?
Good.
Absolutely love it.
Really good. Is it not like 9 minutes long?
It is quite long. You might not want to do the extended outro that goes on for 2 minutes.
That's the best bit.
Oh, well, it is a good bit.
We're just skip straight to that.
You're not going to go avant-garde jazz?
Probably stay pretty true to the track, because it's just such a well-written song.
Right, well, good luck. Be creative.
Cheers. Cheers.
Next, Flight of the Phoenix.
Yeah!
Wesley, can you do the drill sound? Do the drill. Do we want to hear the drill sound? Yeah. Do the drill sound. Walk away then.
Well, I don't know how, and I don't know why.
Teenagers, Flight of the Phoenix were put together just 3 weeks ago by beatboxer Wes.
I got to college with all the musicians. I thought, well, actually, if I get a group together, maybe it might actually work.
Whilst Wes is the linchpin, they're all blessed with individual musical talent.
They're all amazing singers on their own, and together they're really good. Gives me goosebumps.
Will I see you someday before the end?
But they're more used to singing with instruments than without.
Darling, my heart's on fire.
As much as we're friends, you don't know if you're going to gel as musicians, so everything could just go wrong.
Flight of the Phoenix. I've given you a song that is both melodic and modern, and will give you a chance to develop as performers.
Lately, I've been
I'm hoping this folk-influenced hit by OneRepublic, you know it, will showcase this group's gifted soloists, as well as Wes's skills as a beatboxer.
dollars, we'll be counting stars.
What do we think?
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah? You're welcome. Not a daunting choice for you, or?
No.
It's like one of my favourite songs.
It's one of your favourite songs. What is it about that song that you like?
It's just like the tune.
Sorry, it's mint. I'd agree. It's an entertainment song, and this cannot be reserved. You've really got to go for it. OK, the final group, the Sons of Pitches. Hello. Hey! Hello. I think you've got many assets, but one of them in particular is your sense of vocal percussion. So, should we have a listen?
Hey, baby, tell me your name, I got it.
The Sons of Pitches' style is modern and playful. Little Mix's move has plenty of scope for the percussion and synth sounds that come naturally to these guys.
Oh, I like it.
Good song?
Yeah, awesome. It's got so much shape and like the build-ups and the drops, and it's just, yeah, perfect for us.
Good. I'm genuinely very excited to see what you come up with. Show off what you are able to do. And best of luck. Thank you very much.
The groups now have just 3 weeks before they'll be back in Liverpool and singing to stay in the contest.
The tricky thing with this tune will be keeping it interesting the whole way through, because it does just go dum 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 dum.
So it's a really like rising bass line. I think we can definitely work our magic with a bit of Little Mix.
They all seem to have a wealth of arranging ability, which unfortunately we haven't.
But we'll come up with a novel twist on the song.
Hopefully we won't show our confidence, but really we'll be like the dark horse of it. And really like come out of nowhere.
I'm really excited. I think they're fantastic groups. I want to create a wonderful show. I want this place to really rock with a cappella. And that's about as good as my drill sound gets.
Over the course of this contest, I'll be pushing the groups to strive for the gold standard set by the genre's leading artists. This means success will depend on more than just singing. The groups must produce inventive sounds, create imaginative arrangements,
Well, my friends, the time has come.
and stage it all with wit, conviction, and eye-catching choreography.
It's time for Africa.
In Derbyshire, YesterYear are feeling the pressure of pulling this sort of performance together in just 3 weeks.
It would normally take us about 6 months to get a song from scratch up to performance ready.
Make sure you're on the offbeat there.
We get there in the end. Tortoise and hare, you know.
As most of the group no longer work, they can lavish time on their passion. But for some members, like Frank, singing's more than just a hobby.
I went through a bad stage, health-wise, and singing has brought me back, if you like. You know, it's given me a hell of a boost.
Frank's love of a cappella kicked in late after he was forced to retire, aged just 52, due to heart problems.
Been my saviour, really. There's a hell of a camaraderie. We sing hard, but we always go for a drink afterwards. Oh, it's heaven.
Len, YesterYear's oldest member, no longer sings, but acts as the group's compere and chief wit.
I'm 81 years of age, but I don't feel 81 years of age. These guys keep me on my toes. We have a laugh, and I have a saying that a day without laughter is a day wasted.
After a week rehearsing, I'm keen to hear what sort of treatment YesterYear have given a classic Elvis track.
I'll be interested to see how they're doing, because they were quite frightened YesterYear of actually getting hold of a song and making it for themselves.
We're hoping that he'll think we've done quite well with it. Fingers crossed.
Hello! Hey! How is everyone?
Absolutely. Fine, thank you.
And musically? Yeah. Good, oh, great.
I think we're waiting really for a bit of inspiration from you.
Oh, right, OK.
It's definitely
The pressure.
recognisable.
Well, look, I will do my best. Shall we have a listen?
Why can't you see what you're doing to me? When you don't believe a word I say. We can go on together with suspicious minds, and we can suspicious mind.
Well done. Look, it's good scaffolding, I think. Very good. You're going to be up against vocal percussionists who are... Now, does anyone beatbox here? No. But it might be worth considering that you can make a dum dum dum. You're very sort of. I can hear the barbershop in dum 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 dum, which obliterates everything. You need to think I am a bass guitar. Dum 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 dum. And a bit of that is going to go a really long way because you suddenly got some high frequency sounds, you know. Okay. Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and... Just improvise. Who did that? Great! I felt like there was more groove that time.
There's groove in this one, yeah.
It's Daddy at the Disco. Thanks. That's the look. Thanks. I was trying to be kind. You're freer than you think you are. So throw away the shackles.
It's thrown another spanner in the works today. Oh, good. Making us think differently, which we're not used to.
This is vocal a cappella. It's a different style. So each one of you is an instrument. Keep on it. Stay on it.
Yeah.
Been like a bit of a bombshell, quite honest.
He suggested that perhaps we could put some beatbox in it, and that's a big no from me, I'm sorry.
I think they're always used to just sort of doing things by the book. And I don't think that's what this song needs. It needs to be fresh. It's vocal a cappella. It needs to be fun. There's one old habit that I don't mind YesterYear hanging on to.
Got into a fight.
The post-rehearsal pint. But down the pub, group leader Martin drops a bombshell. His daughter is getting married on the same day as the contest performance in Liverpool. You have quite an integral part in the piece, don't you?
Yeah.
Every cog is important to the machine, isn't it?
Yes.
But you're having to leave your daughter's wedding.
Yeah, but, you know, she understands, and Mrs. P, she also understands.
You say that, she perhaps understands less. Yeah.
Well,
is this a lot? This is a.
Excuse me. You're married.
I get it.
Yes.
I understand. Yeah.
We don't need to go any further.
No, say no more. There's no backup, is there? No. Oh, great. I'll be singing.
You'll be singing.
I think that's against the rules.
We can do this, people. Teamwork. Come on. Knuckle down. We can do it. I have faith in us.
From the oldest to the youngest and newest group in the contest. Fly to the Phoenix, 6 teenagers who met at music college in Salford.
We'll be counting stars, and then it repeats and it goes, yeah, we'll be counting stars.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah?
A cappella is a new musical challenge for them, and their first job is to decide who's singing which part.
Stars, right, OK, what's their stars then? I feel quite privileged, actually, because I only thought I was going to do the high bit, and I came in this morning, yeah, you're doing it all. I'm like, OK.
Newly appointed soloist, Cathy, lives with her family and works part-time at the local burger bar, alongside her mum, Amanda.
Oh, yeah.
Today, they're shopping for Cathy's performance outfit.
You're trying them on.
I'm trying them on, no, I'm going.
No, you need...
Try them on? I don't like trying them on.
Although Cathy's been singing since she was small,
I like it.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Liverpool will be the first time her mum's seen her perform on stage.
I've seen recordings, but she's never actually let me watch her live. I'll probably cry.
Please don't cry, it'll make me awkward.
The mastermind behind newly formed Fly to the Phoenix is 18-year-old beatboxer Wes.
You alright?
You alright?
I'm good, thank you. Good. What's on for tea? I'm starving.
After his mum and dad separated 5 years ago, Wesley ended up living at his Nana Ann's.
Stick kettle on.
Now, it's a home from home.
Don't break it. He had it pretty rough. He was only 13 when his parents split up. There was no room for Wesley, so I took him in. I've just done everything for him. everything I can, because that's what I'm here for. Get these in the oven.
If my nan hadn't been here, I don't even really know. Even when I became homeless, this is like my home. This is like the home place where I was. I had my laptop, loads of clothes in bin bags, and every day I used to just sit on this couch and just make tunes and just block myself out from the world. Put some drums behind it.
He just loves his music. It gives him something to go forward in his life. Or what are you beatboxing to Bird for? Just drives me mad with the beat bopping. Whatever it is.
It will beatbox.
I think Flight to the Phoenix are the dark horses in this because they're very young, but they've got bags of potential. Hello, if it isn't Flight to the Phoenix, how are you? Very good to see you. Everyone okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? What about you girls?
It's not hit me yet.
You're in denial. Okay. Wake up. I'm really looking forward to this. Let's have a listen.
Lately I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things we could be. There will be time.
Everything that kills me makes me feel alive.
Hey, good. You really come to life when you sing, doesn't she? It's good. My worry with it is there's just sort of shakiness about the harmony. So we've got a lot of tune, we've got a lot of percussion, and then the harmony's there, but I'm just kind of searching for it. So just try those chords, just the chords on their own. Yeah. Is that totally together? Is that totally blended? Is everyone coming off at the same time? Is everyone in tune? You need to be a unit. You need to be like this. And if you do that, you can just do it with your eyes, and that'll make a massive difference. Try it. Bit more girl. There you go. Did you hear that?
We all took a breath at the same time.
As soon as you said more girl, then it sounded better.
Yeah, it's blend. It's called blend. If you're listening to the overall sound rather than just yourself, then you'll be fine. Good.
Yeah.
That's all right. Maybe. Really weird. There's some real moments of thinking, yes, you know, this has got legs. This is really good. We've got great little soloists there. I just hope they can kind of keep the train on the rails.
We've got all the parts, it just needs to be together as one, glued together.
We need to rehearse and rehearse. I'm just worried that my band's not going to get to the right standard, but I just want it to get it 100% perfect. That's what I'm hoping for, hopefully.
Scotland, home of the brave, and Glasgow University group, Choral Stimulation. The group has a work hard, play hard approach. But right now, most of them are working harder than they'd like.
I'm in my final year of study. I'm in the middle of my exams. I had 7 this month. It's really hard to study and balance it all because choral stimulation is such a big part of my life that I want to be at the rehearsals and then I want to go out for the drinks afterwards. And obviously that's a lot more appealing than my revision.
This year, most of us are leaving, so we're just trying to squeeze every moment out of it we possibly can.
So we're straight into prison.
Sound engineering student and Belfast boy, Tony, has been playing guitar and piano since he was a nipper. But he's been the group's musical director for less than a year.
I've never arranged a cappella music prior to this year. When I first started doing it, I didn't go to college for 3 weeks. Honest to God, I just stayed in and just figured out how to arrange vocals for 10 people. And I love doing it. I really like doing it. A lot.
With a little help from his keyboard for now, Tony's been working hard to put together the group's arrangement. but progress has been slow.
How long were you up for last night then? Hours?
4 in the morning. I only got the intro bit done.
It's glamorous. Given Tony's appetite for complex arrangements,
Hello?
I can't wait to find out how he's reworked
Hello?
Mr. Blue Sky.
No? Hello? 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 How are you? How is it going? What are you going to do?
So I think I said you were going to really stick to the original as much as we can.
You did. Very sensible plan.
We're not doing that anymore.
OK, you've thrown that plan out.
That's been scrapped. I think you said no avant-garde jazz.
Yes.
We've gone jazz.
OK, I'm fine with jazz.
Cool. I think we said we were going to take the ending out.
Yes.
We're going to start with the ending.
Start with the end. OK, so you've basically... I'll just get my coat. Talk me through your ideas then.
Okay, well, so like I said, we're going to start with the end, the big epic end thing. This kind of thing. Yeah. It'll be nice. Yeah. So is it by the time it gets round to the main sort of resolution, we're going to go avant-garde jazz.
Okay.
Take it away, Ben.
I get it.
Sun is shining in the sky, there ain't a cloud inside.
So on and so forth.
Nice. Is it going to hang together? And have you got time to pull all this off in the rehearsal time as well?
See, it remains to be
You've
seen.
now got 2 weeks left, haven't you, before we perform it. How many of the group know it?
The short answer is no one.
No.
No, just
No
no
one's,
one.
no one's, it's all in your head. Tony is really clever and very creative. I know that they want to show what they can do, but you have to balance that with what you can achieve in the time. They have got a huge amount of work to do.
This means I might not sleep much for like 2 nights, but that's okay. I'm used to that one. Maybe drink less. Maybe drink less. I don't know. We'll see.
Suburban Birmingham, home to the Sons of Pitches.
I'm looking forward to this. So they've got a very exciting song, very up-tempo song. They're a very slick group, very polished.
Yes. Yes.
These best buddies began singing together 2 years ago.
Messy.
No, what a shame.
We're all from different musical backgrounds. We've got people, me and Jamie did musical theatre when we were younger. We've got Joe was in a band a lot. Joe Novelli used to sing in church. Me, they played the clarinet. The idea was just for us to do something quite different with a cappella. There's things like dubstep and drum and bass and things like that, and we try and put our own spin on everything.
Don't believe me, just watch.
They're so bent on success, the three Joes rent a house together, which doubles up as their rehearsal space.
I guess we're not normal for guys of our age.
We're not lads. We're not crazy about going out and getting drunk.
Let's try again, because we have jobs. You know, I'm a teaching assistant at a primary school.
If you have a knack for something, it means you do something really well, you're really good at it.
I absolutely love it. Bud and the Sons of Pitches is the priority. This is what we want to do.
We've kind of all put our lives on hold. And if we can make it into something where we can live off it, then literally we'd just be in heaven. It would be great.
Hello. Hello, Joe.
How you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
Come on in time. Very good.
Thank
Please
you.
come on in.
How has it been going? I gave you this song, this Little Mix Challenge.
Yeah.
We think it's going okay. There's a lot of ideas.
Good. I'm excited to hear it.
Baby, tell me your name. I'm a feeling for it. I just can't explain. There's just one problem. I'm a bit old school. When it comes to loving, I ain't chasing you.
Great, well done.
Thank you.
Love it. Yeah, it's
So
good.
far, yeah.
Both my excitement and my concern with you is that you make a very impressive and exciting sound, but that risks just being a lot of clever noises. So I think the whole thing could be softer. It felt like it was all kind of pretty much one dynamic. And I think you'll also find then the harmonies are actually easier because a couple of times you ran into some tuning issues, just where you're...
Sounds like us.
Yeah. So let's just start on, you know, mezzo piano rather than mezzo forte.
Hey, a fever for you.
Don't build up.
Just can't
Keep
explain.
it.
But there's just one problem. I'm a bit old school when
There you
it
go.
comes to love, and I ain't chasing you. I ain't waiting. I'm on a go.
Hold on to it.
To let yourself go. You know that I've been waiting for you. And I notice you too.
Yeah, good. And I mean, I think that can be more extreme then. You could really let it go there. But I just think if you hold on, and then suddenly bring it back down. Dynamics are absolutely the best way to make an impact on an audience, I think.
You've sort of hit the nail on the head in terms of dynamics. We have a really bad tendency to just get excited by the song and what we're doing, arranging-wise.
You need these moments where you just go, look, actually, we can sing. And I think you can, but I think you need to work 3 times harder at that stuff. I'm quite taken with their sound. You know, it's very impressive, but it could just sound like a collection of noises. It needs to be a musical performance.
I think we have put a lot of work in, but I think we've probably got quite a lot more to do.
It's now 1 week until the groups return to Liverpool's Everyman Theatre to perform in front of a live audience and, of course, the jury. This carefully selected group cover a range of disciplines within modern a cappella. Keeping a keen eye on the group's overall look as well as sound is renowned director and performance coach Andrew Panton.
We want to see staging, we want to see choreography, and we want to see that wow factor.
Performer and producer Nick Girard is a leading light on the international a cappella scene.
You really need to have all those voices be gelled, you need to have everything sound nice and smooth and really delivered in a unified way.
They're joined by specialists from the worlds of vocal training, musical theatre and pop, gospel and university a cappella. In just 7 days, this collective expertise will be used to decide which groups go through and which act goes home. Hungry to impress the jurors and stay in the contest, the groups are now cramming in rehearsals.
Darling, I've been waiting for you. And I noticed you too.
No more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars.
Up in Glasgow, Tony's worked through the night to ensure choral Stimulation finally have a complete arrangement. But they're still cutting it fine.
I think it's pretty interesting to listen to, but only if we pull it off. But yeah, I'd say it's pretty tricky compared to what we've done before, and we've got even less time to learn it.
Yeah, so much better.
Tony's arrangement is jam-packed with every a cappella trick in the book.
Yeah, that can be... That's the 10% more.
But being preoccupied with their arrangement for so long has left choral Stimulation little time for choreography.
Hey, you with the pretty face. Welcome to the human race.
Hey there, Mr.
It's mental. Crazy town. There's so much going on musically in that bit, and suddenly everyone's everywhere. I mean, look, you're a very strong singer, and if you're getting lost, then something's wrong. I think they might have just kind of wrecked something really good by overcomplicating the dance moves.
In Salford, Flight of the Phoenix have more than fancy footwork to worry about.
Catherine was running extremely late. She didn't go up till like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Kind of annoying, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, come on.
I missed it today because I fell asleep because I was really tired because I was on a late shift. Hopefully, I'll just pick it up.
With just 2 days to go until show day, I need to get them back on track.
I did it wrong.
OK, good, OK. Let's start again. Da, da, da. Has that ever happened before? Could it happen when there's 300 people in front of you? My advice is get it in your head right before.
But baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. We'll be counting.
I see this light, like swinging vines, so high across the line.
You forgot the story.
Great. Oh, God. Look, I mean, what can I say? It doesn't look like you know it. Is that fair?
Yes, that's pretty.
Why?
I'm not sure.
You've got to step up the work, because the other groups are killing themselves. They're giving up on their lives to make sure that these are right. And I'm not getting that vibe from you. I'm getting, hey, should we turn up for rehearsal? Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a bit late. Oh, hi, everyone. You need to crank it up. And at the moment, in terms of energy, you start, and then somebody kind of goes, and the energy just goes, and then that just goes round like wildfire. Yeah, it's really critical that you kind of key yourselves up now, and that we put this sort of terror behind us. I have never wanted to put an old head on young shoulders more than I did in that session, and I just want to give them everything that I have learnt the hard way. And I know you can't, and maybe it's... I just desperately want, maybe to a fault, I want them to do well.
While I play teacher with Flight of the Phoenix, in Birmingham, classroom assistant Joe Hines has brought his fellow sons of pitches to work.
I think I would be this scared for a group of year 3. We're nervous, I'm quite nervous.
It'll be fine, how's year 3 like?
They're keen to test out their performance in public on Mr. Hines' class of 8-year-olds.
I reckon these guys are absolutely fine. They're not bothered. I'm pretty nervous. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see their reaction. I think it could be quite silly. I'm looking forward to it.
Hi guys.
Please give a big cheer for Mr. Hines!
Tell me your name, I got a feeling for you. I just can't explain. There's just one problem, I'm a bit old school. When it comes to loving, I ain't chasing you.
It's really good that seems to Hines sing. I liked the man that was doing the beatboxing, he was amazing.
It's a resounding thumbs up. In Manchester, Flight of the Phoenix are still trying to impress a much tougher crowd.
Sing it out.
Eyes up, eyes up, eyes up!
The song is ending.
Me.
Guys, God, I just want to give you all a kiss. It's lovely. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, I'll see you in Liverpool.
It's a lot better now I've had a session with him. He sorted us out.
We've never had a performance ever, so it's kind of like a bit worrying, so a bit stressing out.
They're on a wing and a prayer, this lot. They might pull off a miracle, or they might just, you know, implode. I don't really know which they're going to do.
The big day arrives. My 4 northern groups are back to compete against one another. By the end of this evening, one of these acts will be leaving the contest for good.
You have to do everyone, I'm not going to be the only one that you do this to.
I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a great show. It's going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see which of the groups that actually succeed in a show and which fail. You know, I know that choral stimulation is very overcomplicated. At YesterYear, it's not technically perfect. Sons of Pitches is very much a particular kind of sound, and whether they'll like that in the jury, I don't know. And Flight of the Phoenix, they're so young, they're so inexperienced. They're like the wild card, I think.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Come to wish you all the very best of luck. He'll do it. He's my grandson, he will.
I'm so glad you're here. I've just not stopped feeling sick all day. So are you excited?
Friends and family have turned up in support from all over the country. But YesterYear are a man down.
Oh, it's Martin.
Group leader Martin's still 100 miles away at his daughter's wedding.
Are you on the road?
We're just about to leave, so I'll see you in a couple of hours or so.
OK, that's great. Drive carefully.
Okay, bye.
It should take 2 hours on a good run, but we came up yesterday and it took us about 3.5 hours. So you should have to go about 140 miles an hour, I think, to make it on time.
1 hour till curtain up, and the jury arrive. Above all else, they're looking to be entertained, but they'll also be honing in on tuning, blend, soloists, and vocal percussion.
Vocal percussion or beatboxing can be really exciting. Adding those other drum-like textures can really elevate a performance.
They'll also reward good choreography and confident, assured performances that engage the audience.
It's that look in the eyes that says, I know who I am, I know why I'm here, and I know what I'm going for.
Based on what they see tonight, the jury will decide which 3 acts will stay in the contest and which group will be going home. Helping to make sure that group won't be YesterYear is Martin, who's finally made it to Liverpool.
We've jumped in the car and come straight here, so...
No pudding.
No pudding, even. No coffee.
And I've abandoned my new husband to come and see Dad perform tonight.
Let's hope we can do ourselves justice. And whatever will be, will be.
With the jury in place, it's time to put on a show.
Just a bit scared but excited.
We're buzzing. Can't wait to get on there and do it.
We are nervous, but like good nerves. Hopefully it's the right sort of nerves.
Hello, Liverpool! Thank you very much. Are you ready to hear the first of our groups? All the way from Glasgow, Choral Stimulation. Here they are!
Good morning. Today's forecast calls for sunshine.
Sun is shining in the sky. There ain't a cloud in sight. It stopped raining. Everybody's in the play. And don't you know, it's a beautiful new day. Hey.
Running down the avenue, see how the sun shines brightly in this city, on the streets where once was pity.
Hey, you with the pretty face.
Welcome to the human race.
Creeping over now, his hand is on your shoulder. Never mind, I'll remember you this. I'll remember you this. Hey there, Mr. Blue, we're so pleased to be with you. Look around, see what you do. Everybody's Mr.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why you had to hide away. for so long. Where did we go wrong?
Very good. Next up, Flight of the Phoenix.
We can do it. I'm so nervous for it.
Lately I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard. Say no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. We'll be counting
I see this light, like swinging vines, swing my heart across the line. In my face, a flashing sign. Seek it out and you shall find. Oh, but I'm not that bold, young, but I'm not that bold. I don't think the world is sold, just doing what we're told.
I feel something so right, doing the wrong thing. And I feel something so wrong, doing the right thing.
Could lie, could lie, could lie.
Everything that kills me makes me feel alive.
I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard. Say no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Yeah, we'll be counting.
Take that money, watch it burn, sing in the ring, the lessons I learned. Take that money, watch it burn, sing in the ring, the lessons I learned. Take that money, watch it burn, sing in the ring, the lessons I learned. Take that money, watch it burn, sing in the ring, the lessons I learned.
Everything that kills me makes me feel alive.
I thought that was pretty good, actually. I think it's definitely the best they've done.
It's good, you know.
Are you crying? Oh,
That's probably one of the best things I've done in my life. It was crazy, it was mental. Seeing that reaction at the end, oh Jesus, it scared me.
Time for the next act.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are YesterYear. Our average age is 67.1 years. If we were at home, half of these guys would be in bed at this time. The other half would be waiting for some medication. But here we are with their suspicious minds.
I just don't because I love you too much, baby. Why can't you see what you're doing to me? When you don't believe a word I say. We can go on together with suspicious minds, and we can feel our dreams, suspicious minds. Oh, let our love survive. Oh, drown the tears from your eyes. Let's not let a good thing die. Well, honey, you know I never lied to you. Yeah, yeah. We call it a trap. I can't walk out.
but it was charming. I felt that the audience wanted them to do well.
Oh, that's mega. That's brilliant.
I think that audience have been regally entertained by some quality singing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe it, but we have come to our final group. I know. Sons of Pitches!
Can they nail it?
Hey, baby, tell me your name. I got a fever for you. I just can't explain. But there's just one problem. I'm a bit old school when it comes to loving. I ain't chasing you. Ain't waiting. I'm on a roll. You've got to let yourself go. Talk to me. You know that I've been waiting for you. And I noticed you too. Don't leave me standing all by myself. I won't leave you standing all alone, child. I'm looking at no one else. Oh, baby. Hey, get your back off the wall. Don't you get comfortable. Looking so hot, I think that I might fall. Feeling like it's my birthday, like Christmas Day came early. Just what I want, so when we move, you move. Oh, silly, why you afraid? Don't be a big baby. Quit playing games and put your arms around me. You know what to do, and we can take it down low. You know that I've been waiting for you. You know that don't leave me standing all by myself. 'Cause I ain't looking at no one else, looking at no one else, looking at no one. Hey, hey, I know that you wanna, but you can't, 'cause you gotta stay cool in the corner when the truth is that you wanna move. Truth is that you wanna move, so move. Yeah, I wanna move. I know that you wanna, but you can't, 'cause you gotta stay cool in the corner when the truth is that you wanna move. Hey, hey, I'm ready. Hey, go come and get me. Don't be scared, show me what you do. Don't you know I'm hard like a girl who moves? Hey, hey, I'm ready. Hey, go come and get me. Don't be scared, show me what you do. Don't you know I'm hard like a girl who moves?
Really listen, they're swotty, they're nerdy, and they work so hard, and that's what you get.
Such a good reaction. That was like one of the biggest buzzes I've ever experienced in my life.
Performance is over. The fate of the groups now rests solely with the jury.
Choral Stimulation. I think these guys had the most sort of sense of narrative, which kept us really engaged and really gunning for them right from the start.
I think we might have gone a little bit too fast, but none of us seemed to notice at the time that there was any problems.
With their choreography, which I actually liked, I did wonder if it took away a little bit from their vocals.
I think the ideas were possibly better than the way they were actually realised in the end.
Flight of the Phoenix, I think they're great solo singers, but they haven't quite unlocked what it means to sing an a cappella arrangement. How to use those great voices.
It's so scary, thinking that they're in there, thinking whether to put us through or not. It's like, oh.
If they'd spent more time looking at each other, because when they did it sounded excellent, then they would have been matching their vowel sounds, which really helped that blend come across.
YesterYear, what's not to love? They just pulled the rug out of any preconceptions we could have about the way they looked.
The best critics are our wives, and they all stood up at the end.
To walk out.
Yeah.
Quite a blocky arrangement, so lots of block chords. I don't feel it was as adventurous as it could have been.
Sons of Pitches, much more dynamically exciting than some of the others for me. They had great use of dynamics.
Even if we don't go through, we can't have any regrets about this round. I'm proud of the boys. Proud of the boys.
I felt like they were executing some great choreography and some great singing, but you could tell that they were thinking about it.
I think for me, it's which one do I want to stick on the turntable and play to my daughter?
All of those groups are full of potential.
Right.
All of them.
We can only put
three contestants through, so...
Right, guys, I think it's time to vote.
Ladies, gentlemen, jurors and groups, it is time to reveal who will be going through and who will sadly be going home. For the benefit of the groups, I want to point out that these results are in no particular order. The first group staying in the contest is... the Sons of Pitches. Well done. The next group staying in the contest is... YesterYear. Well done.
Yes!
So that leaves just Choral Stimulation and Flight of the Phoenix. The jury said that this was an incredibly tough decision, but the group that they felt should stay in the contest is... Choral Stimulation. That means Flight of the Phoenix, I'm sorry, we're going to have to say goodbye to you. You are immensely talented, fantastic soloists. You came up with a great arrangement. Well done. Well done, everyone.
I'm so excited for what's to come, like our next challenge, like bring it on. We're just so happy.
I can't even begin to describe how just relieved and elated I feel at the same time.
It's going to be hard work over the next few weeks, but what the heck, you know, let's do it.
Hello. Hey, guys. How are you doing? I take my hats off to you because you did something crazy and brave with very little experience and pulled off a minor miracle. You know, I really saw something exciting in you. I thought your vocal was absolutely fantastic at the beginning. Really, really stunning.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Good.
It is really fun.
Stick at it.
We'll be back next year.
Right, see you next year, OK. I'll miss them in the contest because they brought something so fun, so energetic and chaotic, but it wasn't to be. Next time, welcome to a cappella school. Blood, sweat and tears as intensive mentoring kicks in.
No, that's just not working.
Just strip it back, sing the bloody song, and 6 groups become 5. Staying in the contest is...